All right, guys, we are back again with COVID Cabal after a long hiatus. It's been a week. It's been a week since COVID Cabal was here. As usual, if you guys are here, leave a comment in the chat. If you guys are here, leave a comment in the fucking chat. Leave it in the fucking chat. I want that comment in the chat. Give me that comment in the chat right now. I'm calling a roll call right now. It's been a week. Who's here? You better be lining up for COVID Cabal right now. I better see all of you guys in the chat right now. Dropping it in the chat. It's been a busy week. It's been a busy week. I'm going to be honest, guys. Like, I don't even know. I hope this is a good show for you. I hope it's going to be a good show because I've been too focused on work. I haven't been watching all the drama. I'm just trying to catch up on it now. And, you know, I'm going to be relying on the chat tonight to amplify some of the message here. So if you guys are here, leave a comment in the chat. I want to see who's around before we get the show going. We got 30 minutes of beautiful COVID Cabal conversation. We got right here, we got a Sancerre. It's very nice. Sancerre is how Sauvignon Blanc is supposed to be. It's the OG space for Sauvignon Blanc. Sauvignon Blanc's in Sancerre, which is the upper Loire Valley, almost due west of Burgundy. It's so the Loire goes all the way, curves east, and then goes down south. That's where Sancerre is, at the very, very, very upper reaches of the Loire River. And then you have Sauvignon Blanc in Bordeaux, where it's typically blended with Semillon. But Sauvignon Blanc's become a grape that people grow all over the place. But that's where the original locations for Sauvignon Blanc was. People grow it in Friulia, so like in Slovenia, northeastern Italy now. And of course, they grow it in New Zealand, which popularized Sauvignon Blanc. New Zealand really did a great job of getting that quintessential. We almost identify Sauvignon Blanc with what New Zealand did these days, because Sauvignon Blanc has this chemical compound in it called pyrazine, which is actually the same chemical compound that's in green peppers. And it gives it this sort of grassy flavor profile, which makes Sauvignon Blanc really one of the easiest wines to guess. I've like impressed people a lot at parties where I go and smell their wine. I'm like, oh, it's Sauvignon Blanc, New Zealand. They're like, how did you know that? I'm like, because it's the most predictable flavor profile. It's very obvious. So anyway, it's definitely a Sauvignon Blanc. It's definitely a Sauvignon Blanc, but it's very nice. It's got some creamy notes on the end, which indicates the superiority of the wine compared to just a kind of typical sort of like linear grassy lemons. That's what Sauvignon Blanc usually is. If you guys are here, leave a comment in the chat before we get started here. Soviet bloc. What are you talking about, Fox? I don't even understand this comment. I want to see some more comments in the chat before we get this going. Here we go. All right, Bill Cuckman's tweet is coming. It's coming. I'm going to probably do another Dynamic Man tomorrow. That's what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. I do want to address it. There's so many things I want to address. But we just had the masterclass launch. Guys, you can still get the masterclass. There's no more bonuses or deals, though. It's just straight up value on the course itself. And still obviously love you to get it. But the link's in the description as always. Michael, what's going on, brother? This is Sancerre. It's a Sancerre's I don't have the bottle. The bottle's downstairs. I'm not getting it. But in Europe, they don't tell you wines based on the varietal. In the New World, the wine is going to have the varietal. In the Old World, it is going to be based on the region, or appellation, as they call it. And you just have to know what the appellation is. The appellation could be a blend. So, but this is Sauvignon Blanc because it's from Sancerre. If you know, it's not going to say Sauvignon Blanc on the bottle. It'll say Sancerre. But if you know Sancerre, what Sancerre is, you know it's Sauvignon Blanc. Oh, that's why you said Sauvignon Blanc. Yeah, Sancerre. COVID Cabal, let's go, Seth. Let's go. Let's get these Epstein files. All right, guys. So it's been kind of like a clusterfuck. I just want to point out like some big picture things going on here. Big picture themes. It's very clear at this point in time that there is an agenda to divide MAGA. There's no question about that. And I think people could see it coming for a while now, but I don't know that it was so obvious of just how, intended the PSYOP was, how intended this divide is until recently. And it's creating a lot of problems. I'm not going to dispute that it's creating a lot of problems. People are essentially exploiting the void that the administration has created. And I think it's hard to dispute the administration's created a void. The question is, does it matter? The question is it strategically done? But there's no question whatsoever that this administration has, on a domestic front, not acted as aggressively as people would have liked it to. Now, if you guys have been watching COVID Cabal this entire season, you understand I've been saying since the very beginning of the year, okay, since before or right after Trump was in office, because I think I didn't even dare to do these shows again until Trump was back in office. That's how fucking many problems I have with the Biden administration. But the point here is that I have always said, you guys can vouch for this, I've always said that we were not going to get direct action until 2026 because it wasn't necessary. This is the thing. It's like, if you can fight a battle now, or you can fight it later, but you fight it later with a better position on the board, you're going to fight it later. And what's going to happen if you can fight it later and degrade their position ahead of time is that they're going to try to bait you to fight earlier when they have a better advantage. So it is always different living through this stuff. Like, I predicted this sort of frustration in action, so to speak, but it still sucks to go through it. I still feel the frustration that everybody else feels. I still feel the frustration that we didn't just start rounding up the Democratic Party after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. But what is Trump actually doing? Trump is essentially breaking up all of the financial. He's breaking up the money that's going to the city of London around the world. That's what he's doing. He's breaking up the cartels. He's breaking up these criminal syndicates. He's stopping the money flows everywhere around the world. That's what's going on. That's why he focused on foreign policy. And I don't know if some people are being obtuse, they're just trying to get clicks, or if they actually, just don't understand this, or they haven't. I mean, honestly, it's kind of complex. I don't blame your average commentator for not understanding it. But everything that Trump's been doing geopolitically has not been a vanity tour. It's been very necessary because you essentially have all these bombs set around the entire world, ready to blow up at any moment, first off, to distract the United States when things kick off domestically. Second of all, what you have is international money coming in to fund the domestic operation. I think it's very notable, and it indicates that we are coming to the final points of this very soon. When I say very soon, I don't mean like tomorrow, but I mean within the next 3 months, that you now have Antifa designated as a foreign terror organization, which means that foreign money coming into Antifa is now, anybody abroad who's sending money to Antifa is now considered to be an enemy. We have to look at this. There's no fundamental distinction between foreign and domestic when it comes to this fight, because the money is coming from abroad and the soldiers are coming from abroad in some cases. through the mass migration, there's a constant interplay between these two things. So we have to think expansively on this topic. And that's when we get into the stuff with Epstein. Now, look, I do want to answer some of these questions here. If you had to bet all the cards, do you think he's being strategic about, or did he drop the ball on the files? It's a really good question. It's a really good question. I think he dropped the ball, but I don't think he dropped the ball strategically speaking. And I absolutely could be wrong about this, but I have a slide here that I can, show you to indicate. I mean, what we are certainly seeing is that it has had the effect of baiting the Democrats and other bad actors into going really heavy into Epstein. And now maybe we have the opportunity to flank him on it, because within the files, it actually shows that Epstein hated Trump. They were not on good terms. Trump was somebody who opposed him. And, let me get this slide out here. Let me get this straight. With the release of the Epstein files, we found out that Epstein hated Trump, didn't trust him. They weren't friends. The New York Times directly worked with Epstein to suppress stories about him. After Bradley Edwards, the lawyer for the accusers, said that Trump was the only individual to cooperate and help, Epstein said Trump didn't have one decent cell in his body. This was also compelling that the Democrats faked the redaction of the supposed victim's name. The name they blocked was Virginia Giuff. I'm going to get that wrong. Who publicly testified that Trump was innocent. When also Russiagate was confirmed as a hoax, just like we said. Are the Democrats retarded? And we also know now, that they're going to start to go after Clinton in this entire scheme, so to speak, with Epstein. Trump is going to use this as an opening to go after Clinton's involvement. So if you look at it from that perspective, you look at the fruits of it, you can say, well, maybe Trump was just playing him the whole time. I still don't think that was exactly the play, because it's so sloppy. It's so sloppy. And there's no question it has damaged his trust. I mean, this is one of the things that, people who I respect, like Cernovich, people like Luongo, what's his name? Avarakum. I don't remember his actual name, but basically, these are big commentators, right? And they have all, to some extent, I don't know. It's just the Epstein stuff has really. Cernovich actually isn't in this group. Cernovich is said this himself. The Epstein stuff has really affected the youth. I mean, Trump. And this goes into the whole Civil War thing, right? Or not. Let me be more precise here. This goes into the whole fracturing of the Republican Party, the Republican Civil War thing, where you can see a split growing, particularly over Israel, right? And the Epstein stuff has been a major factor in this, where you have a lot of the youth, certainly the younger millennials and Gen Z, people who came out and voted for Trump, and they're frustrated. They're, Trump's out there talking about more H-1Bs, whatever that means. There's so much disinformation, because you see this headline that comes out, you see this snippet of what he says, and you look at the full context of it, and you're like, well, that's not necessarily that bad. And then you see something like they're going to get rid of H-1Bs entirely, and then you see he needs more H-1Bs. So I'm going to be honest, it's very hard to parse what's going on, and I think that that's by design. I think that nobody really knows where to stand. This is the fog of war, so to speak, the information fog of war. I don't feel that Trump has betrayed us. I don't feel like Trump's betrayed us at all. I do think that we're in a lull, and, the elections were very frustrating, especially considering that there was pretty clear fraud. But I think that the public's almost burned out with the fraud. It's like no one's been arrested for election fraud. So no one's going to even bother trying to police it almost at this point. This is a really great point, Michael. What's wild is that Trump hasn't even been in office for a year yet. And that's the perspective shift that we need. We need to keep this in mind. But like I can see very clearly that there's a move to divide MAGA. There's absolutely a move to divide MAGA. And I don't think that Trump's messaging has been perfect. So to like really be clear about answering this question, do I think Trump's being strategic about the Epstein files, or did he drop the ball? I think he dropped the ball. And I don't know whether he dropped the ball because he didn't understand that it was important. It was so important to people. I don't like, think about it from this perspective. I'm going to give you guys like let's try to put ourselves in Trump's shoes. Trump is trying to deliver on this agenda for the country. He's hitting all these executive orders. He's moving the ball forward, right? And then he knows that he was one of the biggest people opposing Epstein, right? He knows that he was opposed all the way by the Democrats and other corrupt Republicans. He knows that maybe he was a witness in this case. He was the one. Epstein hated him. He was Epstein's enemy because he didn't like what Epstein was doing. And so he, for whatever reason, which we don't know yet, whether it was from his lackeys, Pam Bondi, or whether it was some last minute kind of thing came in, some deal or whatever. We talked about this with the Epstein file release, with, all the influencers coming there with the binders that were filled with nothing. That was a clusterfuck. I have a hard time believing that was by design. It was so bad on messaging. And literally that narrative didn't even get muted until a month later when Tulsi Gabbard came out with the DNI report on Obama. So it was so bad from the news cycle. I have a really hard time thinking that Trump didn't mess up. And maybe he felt, okay, we just can't do this, so we'll give him something for it, and they're gonna be okay. He's thinking to himself, I'm obviously, not implicated by Epstein. And then the PSYOP gets run. The Democrats, you have a few Republicans, like Massey Republicans, break off. And then you have the Democrats start talking about this, right? They start saying we need to release the Epstein files. Trump's implicated. Maybe the Epstein files were corrupted, the ones that at least the Democrats wanted. The point I'm trying to make here with all this stuff is that I have a hard time believing that he didn't screw this up, the messaging. But these are tactical mistakes, not strategic mistakes. And I think in the end, you can afford tactical mistakes if you still hold the strategic imperative, if you still hold the high ground, right? I think that the really big issue here that we're facing in the Republican Party, and I'm just gonna be blunt about this. You've heard me talk on other shows, and you've heard me say it in a different way, but I just got to be real. I got to be real about this. Is that this whole argument that we've had, and I've made it myself, about, I'm not going to be focusing on the plight of Palestinians or any of that stuff, because all these people want me dead and want to destroy America. They all hate America. I understand why they hate America. And I'm not saying anything that's happening to them is good or justified. We've talked about this. I don't want to, reinvent the wheel with this entire conversation. But if there was I think that there was an opportunity that was attempted to be made to Israel, which was like, look, we know all this kind of messed up stuff that you've done to the country, but now really enemy is a friend. We can work together. You support MAGA, and we'll help you take care of the situation in Gaza, but you can't over-escalate the situation. We're just going to make sure that you're safe as a country. We'll stop Iran from being able to develop nuclear weapons. And, all we ask in return is that you're going to help us implement the MAGA agenda. And there's obviously a number of Jews who are totally fine with this, right? But it seems like a lot of the really powerful Jews are not okay with this. And it is actually really striking to witness the absolute inability for these people to, and I hate saying these people, but I mean, what am I supposed to say here? Like Bill Ackman, we talked about this after the election. Like Bill Ackman, I know he's not every single one, but it's like every single thing has to revolve around their particular issue. And I know some of you guys are gonna be like, well, it's always been like it's like, are you just waking up now, Pat? Like I'm aware of this stuff. I've been aware of it, but it's so stupid. That's what I'm trying to make the point. It's stupid. It's stupid if you're thinking from a geopolitical standpoint, if you're thinking from a strategic standpoint, because there's no reason that, it was a morally difficult position for us to be in, to support a lot of the stuff that they were doing in Gaza, right? Not that as I've said, I don't blame Israel for doing what they're doing in Gaza from the position of Israel, but from the position of America, it's not justifiable. It's not our eschatological struggle. It's theirs. So when we bankroll Israel to attack civilians, we're complicit in killing people that we have no personal interest in doing, right? That's the thing. So, but they just really don't seem able to work with us. And I think that what's been happening is that we make deals, Trump makes a deal, and they might do it under duress, but then they backstab. They backstab right afterwards. Or they make it about them, they derail the agenda. And then this goes back, guys, I want to bring this back to some of the material that I talked about in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk shooting. We were talking about who actually killed Charlie Kirk and this whole thing, because there was like, was it this tranny Antifa guy, or was it the Zionists? And I think what you come back to, I keep coming back to this, is that thesis I put out there, which is that they were supposed to hit it from two different directions. You're supposed to make everybody hate the Jews, and that has the benefit of bringing all the Jews together, and so that then they can have this big standoff where they release the Antichrist. I know that sounds like fucking Looney Tunes to people, but to be honest, the behavior is so Looney Tunes, I have no other way to describe it. It is either a strategy to do exactly this, or it is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. Because Israel right now is losing support across the board in America. And with all due respect to Tom Luongo, who I think is making good points about maybe the connection between Israel being used by the City of London, and I'm still working through some of this stuff, the proxies that you see are all the narratives that you see don't support this from other influencers. So you can say, is that a City of London op? But most of them are Jews. So I mean, it's kind of like a weird thing. Like, you don't want to get too overcomplicated with the analysis. I can very much understand that Israel was used by the City of London, and they're tied to the same interest, but they also have separate interest, and that those things can, different factions can go against each other. But I mean, this stuff now, they're going against JD Vance, right? And they're going against people for like platforming Nick Fuentes. I don't like Nick Fuentes. You guys know I don't like Nick Fuentes. You can't platform him. That to me is a psyop. Oh, you can't platform Nick Fuentes, so he gets platformed. Then they can make a big thing about it, which makes people pay attention to Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes, I'm like, everything that Nick Fuentes says could be totally eliminated in 2 seconds. And you saw this over the summer before Charlie Kirk was assassinated, by the way. Nick Fuentes was starting to lose influence because MAGA was delivering wins. The more wins we get, the more people who are perpetual losers spiritually, like Nick Fuentes, they are going to they lose support. But when your administration looks like it's cucking to Israel, and when all of these big, Israel first supporters start to make humiliating, they freak out just because you have someone express their opinion about it. It actually works in the opposite direction. So and these things are not necessarily mutually exclusive, but like it's either very self-destructive or the strategy is to be self-destructive on some level. And it gets very complicated to separate the two. It gets complicated to separate it. Maybe it's just like very, very ingrained narcissistic behavior, and they're not used to it, and they're having a hard time believing that less and less people are supporting this in the country. I don't know how they can continue to support this position. I have a hard time supporting the position. I was trying to say, like, look, we got bigger problems. Your problem is not my problem, but let's see where we can work together. They don't want to do that. They just want to extract. It makes it really, really hard to continue to support the alliance. And I do think it's hurting Trump. I do think it is hurting Trump. And I don't agree with Luongo's, points about how the relationship is really good between Trump and Israel, because it just simply can't be. It simply can't be good because of how much Israel's behavior is destroying credibility domestically for Trump. If Israel and Trump are actually working together to do the same thing, then Israel wouldn't be trying to degrade Trump's flank internally. And Luongo hasn't really, to my understanding, addressed that. He just hasn't addressed it. The psyop of Nick Fuentes is real, but it only works because he's pointing out things that are accurate. That's the problem. That's the problem. It's an effective psyop because it feeds on real things. And that's the stuff with the Epstein files, right? All of these things, like Trump is losing credibility. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that to me he's lost credibility, big picture, because I'm willing to concede tactical mistakes and I'm willing to concede operational necessities. But we know that things have to come to a head soon. There needs to be a flip because you can't go into the midterms like this. You can't go in the midterms without direct action against the Democratic Party, for that matter. So let's see here. I think Nick is just representative of young men, not a leader of them. He speaks for them, including changing his mind every week as he develops his belief. Very vulnerable subversion too. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's go through some of these things I have in the next 5 minutes. So one of the big people is Marjorie Taylor Greene. From what I understand, she had been given a phone call about her Senate bid. It wasn't going well. Trump told her, hey, here's the poll. She could not get the position that she wanted. And to be honest, like, I don't ever speak bad about people who are good to me. Whatever her reasons, Marjorie Taylor Greene was good to the J6ers. She may have only been good to the J6ers because that was an opportunity for her to essentially be on their, be like the most MAGA person, to find some base of support where it was missing. Even still, she has not been, over the last year, and some people have explained why, but over the last year, she has just not been a reliable ally. It's just been flipped with her. So I've never personally liked her, or I've never liked her style, and I never trusted her. I knew that she was doing what she was doing, not because she actually cared, but because she was a political hack. And so now she's up there with Massey, who never votes on any bill Trump needs. And she's up there. She's saying, pick MAGA or America first. She's going on CNN apologizing for the MAGA movement. I mean, just go fuck yourself. Just go fuck off. Just go fuck off. Like, you've burned through the credibility that you built over the years. If she hadn't gone up and done that, then I would have felt differently about it. But at this point, she's just subversive. She's part of an operation. Let's see what else here. We have the Gen Z revolution in Mexico. I don't know. My first instinct is that this is coming from Trump, because right before this happened, Trump made a comment about Mexico being the problem. He said, I actually think we have things sorted out with Venezuela, but Mexico and Colombia are going to be an issue. So we'll see about that. We'll see about that. Let's see what else we got here. This is what I was mentioning earlier. Trump said he was going to use the full power of the DOJ to go after Clinton and the rest of Epstein's actual friends. Clandestine saying the Dems just walked into a trap. It certainly does seem like they may have done that. And the question is, from the perspective of the trap, is it like we mentioned earlier, is it a trap where this was all planned out, or was it simply an opportunity? And let me just be like a little bit more specific about this, because I want to make the distinctions in strategy. If you have the strategic high ground on an issue, you can, I guess this is a trap. You can say tactically, I'm going to do this, tactically, I'm going to do that. You have a bunch of different options. But so long as none of the decisions you make tactically compromise your strategic position, you can always fall back to this. So maybe Trump was going to release the Epstein files, and he thought, and then he had an opportunity to not do it. There's something came through, there was either some trap there, or there was some benefit to waiting, right? So he says, I'm not going to do that. And that creates a lot of flack and issues, because people were expecting it. They don't trust him. So tactically he's losing, but strategically he still has the files. Strategically, he still knows who's in it. So if he can withstand the tension of that failed tactical decision, then he still has the ability to reverse things, right? And this is it. Trap to draw attention to it. No one cared 1 year ago. It's true. It's true. And that's part of the reason that that there's intelligence agency stuff involved with it. Let me keep going here. This is a big thing about Susie Wiles. I don't know what to think about Susie Wiles, because I got people who are like pissed at her because they say that she's letting in lobbyists. But Larry Schweikart here is saying that there's no leaks in this administration, and that is actually true. This is an administration with no leaks. So are they going after? And that's very important. That's operational security. So are they going after Susie Wiles, like with the stuff with RFK? Are they doing that because they view her as a threat? They can break Susie Wiles. That means that they can destroy the administration. Maybe so. Maybe so. Trump holds tension frame stronger than anyone I've ever seen in my life. Absolutely true. And guys, I think we're going to leave it there. It's been a good catch-up show. We're going to see what happens in the coming week. I don't know. We may have a COVID cabal. We may have a COVID cabal on Friday, but yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed. Hope you enjoyed this COVID cabal. We're going to see how things shake out. But I want you to keep in mind, the real action I expect is not going to happen until next year. I've always expected it's not going to happen until next year. So if you keep this in mind, like the fight doesn't have to happen until we get to late Q1, then we should not stress about the rest, which is kind of noise at the end of the day. So I love you all. I'll see you next time. And next show will probably be Bill Cuckman, Dynamic Man Podcast. See you guys soon.